Uh, Good afternoon, girls. I guess all my students are here. So, today's topic is about functional planning of interiors. Myself, Kavita from NSGIW Bangalore. I'm an occasional instructor there. So, yeah. Uh, what is the learning outcome of this session? Right. So, whenever there's a session or teaching class, there should be a learning outcome, what you will understand at the end of the lesson. So here the learning outcome of this session is to understand what is the purpose of functional planning. And there are two types of functional planning. One is closed planning and an open planning. And you will understand the arrangements of furnitures in different spaces like living room, dining, kitchen, bedroom, toilet, and how you have to integrate the space between each other. Um, what is functional planning? So, functional planning is an ideal concept of planning a building based on the principles of architecture and in accordance with the functions served by it. So, what is the ideal concept of every architect? When you're designing a plan, you will have certain ideas in your mind. You can't start a design blankly. So, functional planning will help you to put the idea concept in a plan form and help you serve the purpose in a better way. So it starts with an in-depth analysis of how the space is to be used. So what is in-depth analysis? In-depth analysis is, say for example, you're designing a living room. What all a living room should consist, not just about furnitures, including the color schemes. It can be your furniture choice. It can be your lighting choice. So you have to start with the in-depth analysis of the space. So functional planning will help you in determining all those spaces. The space plan will also define the circulation pattern that shows how people will move through the space. So once you put your furnitures in place, you will show the circulation movement. For example, you have to go from living room to kitchen. Are you disturbing the furnitures or are you going in a smooth manner? So that will help in the functional planning. Then planning of private zone and public zone. So when you're designing a house, there are two types of zones. One is your public zone and the other one is your private zone. So what is your public zone? Like your living room, dining, all these are public zones. Your sit out area, all these are public zones. What is private zone? It is your bedrooms, toilets, all these are private zone. So how do you differentiate both? That you can see in your functional planning. Next, what is the purpose? Why should you do functional planning? To understand the space flow and its movement into the other zones. So how the space flows and you will understand the movement. Define spatial requirement for occupant activities and furniture in space. For example, you're taking a living room and you say for a client, they want a big living room. So this will define the spatial requirements, whether they want for sofas for 10 people, whether they want sofas for 5 people. There are families where they like to gather, say 20 to 30 people in the living room. So that time you can't just add some 5 or 6 furnitures there. So functional planning will help you define the space, first one, and then the spatial requirements for the occupant activities. For example, say somebody wants to do parties a lot. So for that activity, is the living room enough of what you have designed? So that will help them understand. Then understand the functional relationship among the different spaces. So what is functional relationship? For example, you have dining and kitchen. Now dining and kitchen has to be nearby, because once you cook, it has to be, you don't have to go through other spaces to enter into the dining. So that relationship will be defined when you're doing a functional planning. Analyzing the space where you can comfortably perform the most significant actions. So again, as I said, when you are in the first thing only in the definition, you have to analyze the space where they can comfortably perform. Say for example, if it's a master bedroom, they need a lot of privacy. You don't want anybody sitting in the living room to peep inside the master. So when you're analyzing it, you will put the master bedroom, say if you have 2 floors, you will put in the first floor. So these kind of analyzation takes place in the functional planning. So we'll see the two types of functional planning. One is open planning and the other one is closed planning. So what is open planning? So now if you see this, you can understand this is a sofa, and this entire room has living, dining, and this is the kitchen area and the storage area. Everything is open space. So there is no individual wall between the spaces apart from bedroom and toilet. Again, here, as I said, the planning is divided into 2 zones. One is private zone and one is the public zone. So this entire space is a public zone, equally divided. And then this is your private zone where, say, you have a study room here. So if you want a privacy here, and say you can do study, you can do reading, you can watch TV separately if you want. So this becomes your private space and this is your public space. Now, again, when I say open planning, this is all open. So in open planning, what happens? You get a bigger space when you're seeing the full view. So this is the main entry. So you have your living room segregated with a background cupboards over here. And then you have your TV space here. So when you enter, again, the TV space is not disturbed. If you see there's a passage over here, you don't have to go here. See, here they have blocked. So if you can see, so all you have to go to the bedroom is you have to go like this and go like this. So in that case, what happens? Your living room is not disturbed. When you're watching TV, nobody is coming in between and going. And again, kitchen area, again, it is undisturbed. So this is your kitchen platform, your stove, your wash basin, and your fridge. And then you have your dining, small, it can be used as a cutting area, it can be used as a breakfast area. And you have some storage space here and your dining. So these spaces are undisturbed, and again, it is one open space that it can be seen as a public zone. When I come to bedroom here, if you see my beds, my side table, I have a sofa and a small chair if you want to keep your footrest. You have a small cupboard here. Then you enter here, you have your washroom. And it's a big washroom. Again, you have a bathtub separately, you have a bathing area separately, your WC, and you have 2 sinks. And this is, again, it's like a common toilet. So again, if you see, there's a privacy over here also. There's a small wall here. So when you enter, you don't actually see the toilet wall. You just see an opening here and a small plant which distracts your eye movement, and you can easily use your common toilet. And then you have a small foyer kind of space here for sitting. So this is an open planning. So what is the benefit of open planning is, if you put a wall, this space looks very small. Now when I enter, I can see the entire structure which is open, and again it is segregated into different spaces also. So this helps in for people where they don't mind people seeing the kitchen. So in that case, open planning works well. Now coming to closed plan. So closed plan, if you see, this is the car porch where your car parking is. Your entry is here. You have a drawing come living room. Then you have a staircase. You have a dining here. Then you enter into the kitchen here. Then your say backspace, you can use this as your utility. You have one single bed here and a common toilet here. So once you climb up the stairs in the first floor, you have your small family lounge. You have 3 bedrooms and one common toilet, because both bedroom people can use the common toilet. And this will act as your master bedroom, and you have your attached toilet over here and a sit out over here like a balcony. So in this, if you see, when you're sitting in the living room, you can actually not see the kitchen at all. And you have the staircase space. Dining is hardly seen actually. If you see this view here, dining is very less seen. Even you can put some curtain over here or a screen wall here so that you don't actually see. So this kind of planning is a closed planning where people want privacy. Say a lot of guests keep coming and you don't want people watching your dining area, or when you're having your lunch, you don't want people see from here. That time, these kind of planning helps a lot. So to plan this, you have to check with the client what their requirements is actually. Are they open with open planning, or do they want a closed planning, or do they want a privacy? So even here, when you come up, these rooms are not seen from the down at all. So only the staircase is seen, and even from the down, if you see, you will just see this wall. So it's completely closed in its form, and both are well designed plan. So these are the two types of planning. Next, so before starting the design, before sitting into the design of interiors, you have to check with the client for the space planning. So first, what do you check? What are you going to be using the space for? For example, living room. It is just for living room, or do you want to use it for TV, or will it be a multifunctional? Like, do you want to sit and dine, or bedroom and study? If some people want the bedroom converted into a study space, and in fact, if you have kids room, so is there any expansion tomorrow? So do you want to make it as a play area? Do you want study everything in the same room? So you will ask the client what are the spaces used for. Next, how many people will be using the space, and will they all be using it for the same purpose? So for example, a family might use the same room. Someone may be watching TV while others another read and another work. So are they okay with using the same family room? As I said, when you have an open plan, are they okay with using this as a common space for all, or do they want a closed space like this? So that you have to question the client. Then, do you have any existing furniture that you want to use in space? So is there any existing furniture? Like, everybody will be living in a house. So it can be ancestral properties, or it can be existing furnitures that they have already purchased in their rented house. So you have to check if they have any existing furniture and if they want to use it somewhere. So that you have to keep in mind. Then how do you want the room to feel space wise? So open and airy, cozy, minimal, and serene. So still there are multiple types of room that you can design. So these are a few things that I'll just show what is open and airy. So do you want a space like this? So where you have lot of light, where you have lot of wind that is coming in, natural ventilation that is coming in. Do you want open space like this? Or do you want a cozy space like this where you do get lightings like thin skylight? You don't want others to peep into your house, but still you have a natural light which is cozy and nice, including the colors. See here, if you see, it is very cozy color, no highlighting colors except the pillows and the carpet. You have very simple and subtle natural colors that is going on. So do you want cozy colors, or do you want colorful things in the interiors which is airy and nice, or do you want minimal? For example, when I say bedroom, it can have a lot of side tables, it can have a table over here. Or do you want a minimal furniture, just the bed and the footrest that you want? So you will check with the client what is their taste and how much natural light is available and what kind of lighting will be needed. For example, some clients want to have a party a lot, so sometimes in the evening times they want a different kind of lighting. So you have to incorporate those lightings in the fall ceiling itself, and you have to give two ways of lighting. One is for the daylight and one is for the night lighting system. So do you want to give that natural kind of lighting? So you have to check with the client what their lighting needs are. What are the focal points of the room and how do you take advantage of them? So focal points are highlighting points. For example, we have a different kind of focal points. So focal point can be a painting, a big painting that the client wants, or it can be a background wall. Furnitures, again here it became a dim one. Carpet and the background and this light becomes the focal point. Or features like staircase, see, this is a focal point, and including the fall ceiling. So when somebody enters, first thing that goes to their eyes is your focal point. So you're diverting their mind into these kind of concepts, and here the focal point is furnitures. So you have to check with the client if they are okay with these kind of focal points. Do they want a big painting, or do they want a big sculpture, again like a Buddha statue when you enter the house they want as a focal point? So you have to check with the client what their focal points are. And do you need to create the focal points? Again, some clients, they don't want any focal point. They just want, as I showed, the minimal things. So again, you have to check with them. Do you like balance and symmetry, the unexpected, or a combination? Now, balance and symmetry is, as I showed, in open and hairy. Here, both side you have double-seater sofa. And the center portion, both side is symmetry. This side also is same, this side also is same. Do you want balance and symmetry? Or do you want, say, particular furniture to be highlighted? For example, you have here, now though the color is same, here again, if you see a different kind of sofa and this is a different kind of sofa. So do you want a combination of both? That you have to check with the client. Or do you want a combination? Unexpected, again, as I showed, which is your staircase. So this is an unexpected staircase. This is not like there's no handrail over here to catch. So these kind of difference in space, and even the false ceiling, if you see, these are all unexpected things, which is very, it's not a formal design actually. So informal space is the client wanting. So you have to check with them what exactly their requirements are. Are they okay with these kind of designs? Because as an architect, you will have a lot of designs in your mind. But when it comes to the client, what exactly do they want? Or are they okay with your ideas? You have to check with them. For example, some architects have their own styles. In the last class, if you have seen Indian architects, which I took, like B.V. Doshi and all, they have their own style. They don't change the styles for the clients. So in that case, the client comes with an idea that they want this kind of structure. So that goes into the architect space. For upcoming architect, they should have a lot of things to show the client what they want to express in their design. So in that case, you have to have a close conversation with the client to get the details required. Next, is there anything else on their wish list for their room? For example, it can be a kid's room. If they have a girl or a boy, what all they want? So anything, it can be a puja room or any other things in your design that they want, you have to check with the clients. Next, coming to individual rooms. So living room is the area where you gather for informal activities, for watching TV, parties, and recreation. The living room has always been the hub of the house where everyone gathers. And this place where you and your family make an impression on the others. For example, not everybody are allowed into your bedroom space, your washroom space, or any other internal space. Say some guests come, you just want them to greet in your family area. So this is where you make impression with the others. And therefore, it must reflect your personality, preferences, and your taste. So what all the do and don't in your living room? So when you have your width of your living room smaller, don't place your furnitures in this way, because I'll just zoom here. Because if you see here, you hardly have your leg space when somebody is sitting, and here also if you see, it is very less. So you have, if you want to get up and go here, once they keep their leg, this person cannot get up and go. So in this kind of space, you have to provide both your sofas in this way, so that this person has good leg space, even this person has good leg space, and your TV here. So this will not disturb their movement. So this person can get up and walk also. So when you're designing interiors, if the width is less, don't put your sofas in this manner. If width is more and you have more leg space, then no issues. You can still put it. But if the width of the living room is less, do put your sofas in this manner. And a small corner, it can be a light table, it can be a plant, you can provide in the corner. Now, if you have an L sofa, and if you have two single sofas, and if you have a fireplace at the back side, don't put in this manner, but put it in a 45-degree, because the person sitting here has to turn totally to watch this person. So he has to completely turn. So in that case, if you put in this manner, everybody's interaction is towards this center. So slightly 45-degree will help you in defining the space more better. Also, if you see this square here, this is your carpet. Now, when this person is sitting, he doesn't get the carpet foot. It is halfway here. Also, if I put in this way, this person can put his leg completely on the carpet. Also, when you're designing your carpet, always make sure it will overlap on your sofa. It will go below the sofas, because if you provide only to the center place, it will give a little awkward view for the entire space. So this big carpet space also will make it more clearly visible, and it will make the space look bigger. And again here, see, when you're putting sofas, make sure you put them inside the carpet area. So if you make 45-degree, it will be a better arrangement of furnitures. So these are few furniture arrangements. Even if you're designing other spaces also, you have to make sure that your carpet area is going beyond your seating space. Next, coming to dining room. Formal dining space may be used less frequently than other areas in the house, but a dining room remains a desirable feature where it is a distinct room or integrated into an open plan. As I showed you in the open plan, it can be integrated, or sometimes if you want it to be separate, where you have lot of guests and lot of other official people coming into your house, and you don't want family people having dining scene to the official space. In that space, you can go for a close planning and design it formally. That again, you have to check with the client what the requirements are. Are they okay with formal, or are they okay with open plan? Shapes and size of dining tables, chairs, furnitures need to be considered so that personal movement is not impeded when the room is fully used. In this plan, as I showed, now in this plan, open plan, I can put a circular one, I can put a square one, because I have lot of space here. But when I come to here, say if you have a smaller space than this, you have to check what is the minimum furniture size you can put there. So that becomes a part when you're choosing your furnitures. Take into consideration your decor, your lifestyle, and how frequently you will use the space when you are planning a layout and shopping for furnishing. So what all is your decor? It can be your curtains, it can be your background picture if you have any specific, it can be your cutlery space that you're providing. So you have to consider, because when you're taking shapes, all these will come into the consideration when you're designing the space. So these are the different sizes of dining table: 40-inch by 72-inch, 44-inch by 84-inch if you have a 8-seater. If you need little bit more space, if you can see here, this is more space. Again, this is a 8-seater. It can be 48 into 96 also. Again, when you come to round, 48 dia, and for a 5-seater, you require 54-inch dia. And for a 6-seater, you require 60-inch dia. And for a 8-seater, you require 72-inch dia. So these are the different sizes of the dining table. Next is the kitchen. So kitchen is one of the most important element of a functional kitchen. So when you're designing a functional kitchen, the working triangle, I'll just show you what the working triangle is. The work triangle is very important while designing the functional I'm sorry. So traditionally the stove, sink and the refrigerator, these three are considered for the work triangle and are placed at point of a triangle for efficient movement in the kitchen. So in order for a kitchen to function properly, it must be well lit. So good ventilation should be given for the kitchen, because kitchen is the main space where all your fumes of cooking and your smell, everything will be there. So it has to have a good ventilation. And in spite of ventilation, you have to give your exhaust fan a must, because without exhaust fan, if there's a sudden cooking fumes that you're doing, it will not be effective with just windows. So you need to exhaust the um, cooking fumes also. So exhaust fan is a must when you're designing a kitchen. Depending on the space available in your kitchen, choose a kitchen layout accordingly. L shape, U shape, island, etc. So with the available space, you have to see what shapes you can use. Next, storage is an extremely important factor to consider when it comes to functional kitchen design. Again, all these things depends upon the client. How much storage do they need? What kind of shapes? Again, it can be designed. How much space do they actually need for the kitchen? Do they have oven to keep? Do they have big utensils? Do they want big workspace? So you have to check with the client what kind of space do they need, and depending on that, you can design the shapes. Sorry. These are the again different working triangles. So if you have a straight wall, say small residence where you have like a studio apartment, you just need a stove, you just need a sink, and you just need a refrigerator. So you can just place. So if you see, sink and the refrigerator can be next to each other. Though the water spills, you can give a partition over here and cover it, but never keep your stove near the fridge because of the heat transmission towards the fridge. So don't keep your stove here. Even though you give partition, the heat will still be transferred. So better to keep as far away from the refrigeration when you're designing your kitchen. So this, if you have a single side wall. Now, if you have like a gallery where both side you want your space, you can keep your sink here, my stove here, and my refrigeration here. You can even shift this here and put your sink here, so that you will get more workspace here. But still, if you see, there's more space over the fridge, the stove, and the wash basin. So this is your work triangle. It should always be in a triangular form, no matter what kind of kitchens you're taking. So L shape, if you see again here, the stove and the fridge has quite space, and then your stove is here. So again, it forms like a triangle. When you have a C-shaped kitchen, again here you are putting three different spaces. You can put your stove here, you can put your refrigeration here. But why refrigeration here? Because if you're taking any vegetables or something, sink is more close by to the refrigeration. So this is your work triangle again here. When you're taking a L shape and when you have an island, where it's a, these kind of islands will work well with open planning. So you can have your sink here, you can have your stove here, because you can have a chimney above, and these kind of designs mostly they use in abroad places where they put their chimney above the space. So this becomes your open triangle. So again, these are different work triangle for if it's a single wall, if it's a gallery wall, if it's L shape, U shape, and if it's a island space. Next, coming to bedroom. So bedroom is a very private space and should be placed at the rear of the house. Rear means at the back side of the house, not at the entrance. As soon as you enter, your bedroom should not be visible because it's a private space. Special thoughts needs to be given while designing children's room. And not just children's room, including your master bedroom, or if it's a guest bedroom, still you need a special thought to be given, because when it comes to guest bedroom, you don't want to put too many furnitures in it. You just need a small cupboard and a bed. That's more than enough for a guest bedroom. But when it comes to master bedroom, you need a table, because if you want to do studying and all, you require. And if it's children bedroom, you need to provide study space as well as play area space. So these kind of special thoughts should be given when you're designing a children's room. Children's room should have a combination of play, sleeping, and study area. So where they can play inside the room itself, like a small tent house kind, or even a small with lot of toys. So as they grow, their needs also change actually. So that, and sleeping area and studying area. Master bedroom should have enough privacy from rest of the rooms. So because this is where the main person sleeps, so it should be away from all the other rooms so that he gets a lot of privacy, because also they'll have a lot of jewelries, money, everything kept in their room. So this should be away from the other rooms. Master bedroom should have attached dress and toilet. So as much as possible, they should have an inbuilt cupboard, or you can have a separate dressing room and an attached toilet. Children's room can also have attached toilet, but if a space is not available, you can go for common toilet. But when it comes to master bedroom, it is always advised to give a attached toilet to the master bedroom. Guest bedroom can be placed in the ground floor. So when you have two different floors, and when you're designing bedrooms, guest bedroom can always be in the ground floor, because you don't have any privacy issue for that, because it's just guest when they want to sleep. Even kids, if they are playing, they don't make noise. So all these you have to keep it in the first floor if possible, kids room and master bedroom, so that they have privacy of their own and they don't disturb the living space also. So that's why most of the design, if you see, your guest room will be in the ground floor. So this is a plan where your master bedroom is quite big. It is around 14 feet 9 inch into 16 feet 6 inch. Again, these shapes will depend upon your designs when you're doing. So if you see, this is a king size bed. So king size is like 7 feet by 7 feet, 7.5 feet actually. So you have a big king size bed, almost 3 people can sleep in this. You have 2 side tables. You can place it close by, or you can give some gap and place also. You have your TV here, because master bedroom, normally they have their TV, and it can be like a table to keep all the things. So this comes like a TV space. And you can have some sofas just to sit and read maybe, or just to sit and relax. So this can be your sofa space. So you have your dressing here. So this is your closet where you have your dressing, and you can store all the your valuable money. Everything can be here. So nowhere you can see wardrobes in this room. And your master toilet here. So this is like a big tub, bathtub. Your shower area has a separate glass. And this is your wash basins, and this is your WC. So if you see here, the master bath is divided into two spaces. One is the wet zone, and this side is the dry zone. So that I'll tell you in the next slide. So this is a big master bedroom. When it comes to smaller master bedroom, where you have a 30-40 feet site and you don't have big space for a master bedroom, you can design in this way. So this is your door entry. So I'm not placing my bed here, because as soon as I entry, you don't want to see your bed opposite. So you will keep as much as to the side. You have a small table over here. This should be movable because you have your cupboard here. So this should be movable tables. Or if you have enough space for the cupboard to open, you can still have your table over here, side table, your TV over here, and your wardrobe over here. So this will act like a small dressing area. And if you want to try out different shapes, this will be like a different shape. So your bed over here, so you have a little space at the behind. This can be covered, it will be hollow. And your wardrobe in a little staggered space, and a small study space for your studying. So this, again, when I said forms, you can design. If you want unusual space, this will work more better. Both size are same. It is 3000 by 3000. But you can position your bed in different way. Here also, when you enter, you don't see the bed directly. Bed is on the left side slightly. So you will see more the cupboard. So this becomes your focal point when you enter. Next, coming to kids bedroom. So this is for single kid I've shown, and this is for double kid. So first is a single kid. You can here also again, if you have double kid, you can make this as a bunkers. If you want more play area, more area over here for kids to play, so they can have their tent house, and they can have some bean bags over here for them to play. So this is their bed. They have the study space here. They have their cupboards over here. So the central space gets lot of space for them to have their activities apart from their study space. So this is a very nice layout. Even if you have kids, very small kids, and you want to plan bunkers, you can go for this kind of layout. And if they are little grown and they don't want bunkers, you can go for this layout where you have your cupboard on this side, beds, and you have space for the bed so that they get individual space. And then this acts as a play zone. And a small study table over here. 2 tables are there for 2 kids. So this becomes a more space for one is your play area, one is your sleep area, and one is your storage area. And then again, this is your study area. So these kind of planning or zoning requires a lot of analysis. Now, again, the client says he wants to put the bed at the end. They don't want in the center. This we have made in the center. You can still push the bed to the corners and make this space as your uh, play area. So you can still play with it. You can change the arrangement and see if it will work better. So you have to analyze, and you have to make 2 or 3 sketches of design so that you get the best layout. So you can't just draw one sketch and finalize that. So when you're designing, you have to make at least 2 or 3 options so that you can analyze which one will work best for the client. The last one is the toilets. So toilet can be divided into 2 areas. One is the dry area, includes the sink and the water closet, and the wet area, which includes the bathing area. So sink also, if you see, though you are using the tap, it is going inside the sink. So it is still considered as a dry area. It is important that a bathroom is both functional and comfortable, and that is clean and hygienic. So both it has to be functional and comfortable, not just you're designing very beautiful toilet. It has to be both comfortable. And also when I say clean and hygienic, that is why we are segregating the areas into dry area and wet area, because the water, when I say dry area, the water will not enter into the dry area when you're taking bath. So only thing that you have to take care is the bathing area to get it cleaned. So in that case, you can maintain your hygiene also. Whatever the size of your bath, keep in mind that more walls that contains plumbing pipes, the higher the price tag. So even if it is a small bathroom, keep all your plumbing lines on one side so that you can reduce the cost. So I'll show you a few layouts. If you are raising your hands, I'll just clear your doubts in the end once I finish this class. And I'll unmute so that you can chat your questions. So this is around 1.6 meter into 1 meter toilet. In here, I have divided the shower on the left side, because when I open the door, the water, when I am taking bath, there will be a slight level difference. It can be a tile difference drop. The water will not come towards the door. Most of the civil people designing houses I have seen, they put the WC to the corner, and then they put this as the bath area. So when I put this as a bath area, what happens? The water will always come out near the door. So you will always see water outside the door. So it is always better to put the shower to the corner, because when you're taking bath, the water doesn't come towards the door. WC being here, it is not going to be a disturbance, because you're not going to open the door often, and this is a private area. So nobody is going to see it. So that's why WC should be at these WC and wash basin should be next to each other, and divide wet area and dry area so that it is both separate spaces. Again, when I see, this is at the corner door. If I have door in the center, one side will be shower, and you can have wash basin in the opposite, and left side you can have your WC, so that when you enter, you see the mirror, because wash basin, so you can have a big mirror there to divert your focal point into the WC. Sometimes if you want a bigger wash basin where you want a big counter kind of space, in that space you can put your wash basin, but your width has to be more, because when you open the door you should have more space here. So if you see, this is 60 inch, which is around 1.5 meters. Here, if this is 1.8 meters, so that's why in this space you can put a WC over here, and right side you can make shower, or left side you can make shower, depending on the space. Right side I'm making shower because I can take my pipe easily here, if you see. So entire slope can be towards this side, because this is where my window is there. So that's why I'm not giving my shower over here, because I have to give again slope of water over here. So that's why right side shower is good, where you have, if your window is this side, then shower this side is better. If you have window here, shower this side is more better. So you have a tile drop, so this will be slight below. You can divide by using glass so that water will not go out, or you can put curtains to avoid the cost. So you can design in such way. Again here, if you don't want opposite side WC or wash basin, you can put both this side, WC and wash basin, and you can put your complete bath area on the left. In this case, your window should be here. This should be your outer wall. Otherwise, this again, you have to give a slope pipe here. So the flooring length, height will slightly increase. So these are different toilet layouts. Why I have taken rectangle? Because you can differentiate the space of dry and wet. If it is a square, it is difficult to divide the space. So as much as possible, when you're designing a house, make your toilets a rectangle so that you can have a better arrangement of your fixtures. So that's it for today. So these are the different functional planning of different rooms. So we have seen living room, we have seen dining, we have seen kitchen, bedrooms, master bedroom and guest bedroom, and the last is your toilet layout. So I'll unmute. Anybody who wants to question, I'll unmute them. You can raise your hands, so I can just unmute them. Or you can put your questions in the chat also. So anybody who has questions to ask can put in the chat box. So nobody has any questions? I'll unmute all. So if you have any question, you can just ask me.
So, असं नाही की ते करत होणार तुझं आता काय नाही होणार तुझं मी बोलतो झोपताना पहिला आम्ही झोपण्याची विचार करतो की सकाळी मला काय करायचं कुठून लाईन मला काम भेटेल कुठून कसं मला ऍडजस्ट करायचं बॉम्बेला जायचं
हाथ धराइए हाथ जाते ना हाथ में दुखला जी क्या करो
So I don't see anyone for any questions.
कुठला ऍडजस्ट कुठे करायचं तर मी करतो ना मग कसं ऍडजस्ट
So I'll just show the slides again so that you can just have a revision. So this is open planning and this is closed planning. Then what are the questions that you want to ask the client before designing the space? So this is the open and airy space, or do you want cozy? Do you want minimal furnitures, or any focal points that you want in the design? Then comes the living room, the do's and don'ts. Then the dining room, the sizes of the dining. Then the kitchen, different work triangles. Then bedrooms. So the master bedroom with a bigger space and the master bedroom with smaller space. Then kids bedroom. So one is with single bed and one is with double bed. Then the toilets, different position of the fixtures. That's it for today. So see you all in the next class. So I'll end this session if you don't have any questions further. Thank you all.